what they call Astron, president of the Society, Astro Society of Penang, and we have a new presenter here tonight. I'll introduce him later. So we have our traditional presenter, our very young member, Rian, right? He's going to be the second presenter, a member of our society also, and our member also, Mr. Lim Ning Hui, right? So I'm of course from Penang, okay, retired lecturer from USM in Penang, and Rian is of course applying to do his university studies. And Lim Ming Hui is a school teacher in KL. So some of you may not be aware of Malaysia. So KL is Kuala Lumpur, capital city of Malaysia. And we are here on Penang Island. I and will be in Penang, but Rayan and Ming Hui is in KL. All right. So we are going to start off now. So this what you call man, a lot of interesting pictures. So basically the pictures were selected by our member Mr. Lai. But Lai cannot be here tonight because Lai is back in China for his PhD studies, right? But it was Lai who selected these pictures. So Lai will be selecting the pictures for us to present, okay? So I'll be starting off with one picture, then later on I'll pass over to Rayan and then to Ming Hui, all right? So we start off first. I share my screen. April the 30th, which is today. Okay. Rayan, can you see my screen? Please reply. Ming Hui?
Yes, I can. Yes. I can see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. I can see it.
No, Ming Hui, can you see my screen?
Yes, can.
Okay, can. All right, because I want to be sure. Okay, wow, so nice to know. Okay, now it's a bit too big. I'll reduce the screen size, the picture size. So it says below here, 30th of April 2023, Saturn's moon Helen in color. We know that Saturn now has discovered 83 moons. But actually, this picture of the moon Helen is very interesting. It was actually taken in 2012, 11 years ago, by the famous NASA mission called Cassini. And as Cassini went into the Saturnian orbit from time to time, it will pass close to the moon. So in 20 so this is the moon Helen of Saturn, and it's by NASA, JPL, Caltech, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Caltech, and SSI, a laboratory related to Cassini mission, and it's by our Daniel Mahacek. So basically, you find that a lot of pictures taken by NASA, they don't have time to process it. They send it to amateur astronomers around the world. So it's by Daniel Mahacek. It's actually in his website. I say that he called himself a space nerd, an image processor, a lazy photographer, and a humanist. Right? So it's a kind of photographer, but not really astrophotographer. He processed the image by NASA. So this is very interesting. You see. So now we know that the Saturn has 83 moons. And I'm very sure that many of the children around the world, they're interested to learn about the Saturnian moons. So if I'm a school teacher somewhere in the world, I will teach my students to memorize every single 83 moons of Saturn and the names of every 95 moons of Jupiter. And when I flash the picture of each moon, they should be able to recognize. So this is the moon Helen of Saturn, taken by Cassini mission in the year 2012. Remember, NASA sent a mission many years ago that entered into orbit around Saturn. And so as it moves around Saturn, it will take pictures of the moons also. Okay, so now I will stop here and pass it to Rayan. Okay, pass it to Rayan.
Thank you, Dr. Chong.
Okay.
Okay, let me share my screen. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, can see you, can hear you.
Can you see this magnificent picture?
So nice. Wow, wow, wow.
It really is. In fact, I'm going to zoom out here so that you can admire this really beautiful picture here.
Yeah.
No, okay, no, that's too small. Wait, let me get it just right. Okay.
Beautiful, very. The guy is so lucky to take this picture.
Absolutely. I mean, luck definitely had to do with it, but as he emphasized a lot in the description, a lot of it was also about patience. And as a somewhat theme of this image, we have the idea of perseverance. Not the rover, but the human virtue. So, what's going on in this
Yes,
image? Well, as any astronomer or even astrophotographer, amateur astronomer will know, light pollution is one of your worst friends. Funnily, however,
Yeah.
this image here was taken in the most light polluted city in the country of France. I am, of course, talking about Paris. And what do we see here? We see here this beautiful large arc. It's known as the Arc de Triomphe de l'Étoile, basically triumphant arc of the star. It's one of the most prominent monuments in France. It's located in the middle of a really, really big roundabout called the Place Charles de Gaulle. It was renamed after Charles de Gaulle, but the roundabout itself connects 12 individual avenues, 12 roads. So it is a very busy place, very stressful thing to drive around. But it does surround this beautiful monument, which honors the soldiers who fought for France during the French Revolution and a lot of the Napoleonic Wars. And it was first commissioned back in 1806. Then the architect died a year after the foundation was laid. Then there were a few other historical events that occurred, and construction stopped altogether, only to finish in 1836, 30 years after it was commissioned. And the entire thing cost close to about 75 million US dollars today, 2023 US dollars, or about 350 million ringgit. So that's one story of perseverance and how it relates to this image. But the other one, as I talked a little bit on earlier, is the photographer's own perseverance, his own patience. This image was taken on an early night, on a night in early April this year, by a photographer named Stefano Zanarello. Using his Canon EOS, he searched for the perfect spot in the line of sight of the arc. Now, due to angular resolution, he had to find a spot that was somewhat the Goldilocks zone of this image. It couldn't be too close, because if it's too close, the moon just looks too small. The arc becomes so large, the moon becomes so small, it won't look nice. At the same time, he couldn't be too far away, because then the moon would be too big, and again, it would not be so nice. So the real theme here, and besides perseverance, is also elegance. And that was what he found at this perfect spot here, where he took the image. But besides location, besides space, there's also time. His timing had to be impeccable, because only for a very, very short window of time, around a minute or so, could he take this image. This image of the pink moon. It's called. Now, no, it's not because the moon is pink. In fact, you can look at the image here. The moon is definitely not pink. It's just that the full moons of April are referred to as pink moons because it's around the time of spring where the beautifully vibrant pink moss phlox flowers. This is the time where they bloom. So the full moon of April has been nicknamed the pink moon. But yeah, he found his position. He waited there for the pink moon to settle into position, and within that 1 minute window, captured this photo. So you could go as far, if you wanted, to say that it was the perseverance of hundreds, the more likely thousands of people, and one brave photographer. But this APOD had been captured on April 7th, 2023, exactly 14 seconds into 10:21 p.m. Elegance at its peak. That's the APOD for April 26th. We shall now move on to April 23rd. Now, we covered elegance.
So, wait a minute. No, Ray, allow me to say one word.
Absolutely.
about your picture earlier. C'est magnifique. Okay.
Indeed, yes.
Okay, proceed.
So we looked at elegance, we looked at beauty. Now we look at horror. The horrors of this planet that we live on. What is this, you may be asking yourself? In fact, there are a few things that may come to mind. Is it a tornado? Well, somewhat, not exactly though. Is it a hurricane? No. Is it a portal to the magical land of Oz? No, that would be a tornado. Is it a photoshopped image just to scare people about the seas? Well, some people thought so. Not the scaring part, but some people did think it was photoshopped. But no, it has been confirmed it's not photoshopped. What we have here is a very real thing called a water spout. And if you live in Florida, you've definitely heard of them. Some form from hurricanes, yes, and the mechanics of it resembles that of a tornado, but they aren't, strictly speaking, a tornado or a hurricane. Let's talk a little bit about what happened here. It was one July day in 2013, and Joey Mole was at his home in Tampa, Florida. Suddenly, this monster emerged. He took out his iPhone and snapped a picture and posted it onto Facebook. That was when meteorologist Jeremy Capel from a Kentucky TV station saw it and reposted, hence turning it viral. Of course, not everyone believed it. Some people did, in fact, think that it was photoshopped. That is what led meteorologist Jesse Farrell from AccuWeather. Some of you may be familiar with the website. They are well known for their weather forecasts and such. So, a meteorologist Jesse Farrell saw the image and contacted Joey to ask for the original image file. Had a look at it, processed it, and he concluded that he is 95% sure it is real, which to him was the highest he could go without actually taking the image himself. So, what is it? Yes, it's a water spout, but what is a water spout? Well, first off, as I mentioned, they're quite common, especially around the Florida Key. There are about 400 to 500 water spouts every year. Are all of them this bad? No. We'll get to the difference between the bad ones and the not so bad ones in a moment. But there are a few things that should be cleared up. First off, they are called water spouts, yes, which may lead you to think that you're seeing water being sucked into the abyss of the sky. No. Liquid water is not being sucked, is not being literally sucked into the sky. What you have here is mist. Okay, it's very small water air molecules. So we're not talking about the water from the sea literally being raised up. If you were to go stand in the middle of it, I don't know why you would, but if you did, you would not feel water carrying you up. No. What it is, in fact, is just water and air. And usually this happens over warm waters and cool air, because that way the water rises up. At the same time, they also don't come to shore. They very rarely come to shore. So the fact that this was so close to shore it's quite the phenomenon. And that was part of what led to some people believing it was photoshopped. Now, there are two types of water spouts. There are the easygoing, fair weather water spouts. They don't really do that much. Sometimes, most of the time, they're really invisible. You don't see the funnel of water. All you really see is a disc on the sea at sea level, just a disc of water spinning around. Then there are the tornadic water spouts, which I am pretty sure this one is. Tornadic water spouts are much more violent. Yes, they have the word tornado in it, but they're not strictly speaking tornadoes. The technical definition of a tornado is that, well, it happens on ground. It's on land. So if you see it in the sea, it's not a tornado. So yes, this is more likely a tornadic water spout, and those occur usually of bad weather. So they come as the result of a thunderstorm or the result of a hurricane, but it is not itself a hurricane. So that is what we have here, a horror of nature. And luckily, no one was injured. No, there was some pretty bad property damage, but it just shows a nice duality from the elegance of the April 26th APOD to this disaster of an APOD for April 23rd. And yes, this was reposted. This was originally from July 2013, and it was the APOD of, I don't remember which date specifically, but one of the July 2023, 2020, 2013 dates. But they reposted it here. And though it is horrific, it also shows the true power of nature and the power of the earth. Speaking of power, that brings me to my last APOD. April 6th. Now, this one you may not really know what to think. It's not, unless you know what's
You don't
happening,
know.
it's not as elegant as the first one. And you don't see the moon beautifully framed within an arc, no. But it also doesn't seem too bad. I mean, you can see that it's a rocket of some sort, but it doesn't look as if it's as bad as that water spout earlier. So, what is this? Well, the first thing that you might see here are the blue flames. And that's because this is innovation. Space travel is innovating every day. As we speak, space travel is innovating. And fuel is an extremely important part of that. That's why the idea of water being separated and the importance of water has always arisen in space travel. Not only do humans need it to survive, it can also be split into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen is a well-known fuel. A lot of rockets use it, liquid hydrogen. And then, of course, you have oxygen, which works as your oxidizer. Liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen. Though you will hear that very often. That's what a lot of the rockets nowadays use. So, what is this? Well, this is a rocket by Relativity Space. They're a not to say new. They were founded back in 2015, but they are a space exploration company who are very well known for one particular aspect of their rockets, in that it is 3D printed. The majority of the parts you see here, you see in their rocket. This here is called the Terran 1. The majority of the parts you see in the rockets are actually 3D printed, making them extremely low cost. So, what's so special about this? And why do we have that blue flame? That's because of something called methalogs, methane and oxygen. So instead of using liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, they're using methane and oxygen. And this was the first rocket to have launched from the West that passed max Q. The rocket actually passed max Q, the maximum stress a launch vehicle will experience. So it passed that, and unfortunately, the rocket didn't go into orbit. There was some failure with the second stage, but it is still an accomplishment. No rocket powered by methalogs has yet to reach orbit. There were two before this that did something similar. Those were from China. There's a company called Land Space from Beijing, and they launched their G2A 1 and 2. 2 was last year, December. 1, I believe, was sometime, I think it was 2018 or so. It was sometime in sometime recently, but they also used methalogs. So maybe December 2018. But they also used methalogs, and they were able to achieve similar results. Though their second stage, and in the case of the G2A 1, the third stage had failed at some point, and they weren't able to reach orbit. Now, you may not have heard of these companies. Unless you're a spaceflight enthusiast, you may not have heard of them. What you will likely have heard of, however, is SpaceX. Yes, the Elon Musk spaceflight company. The rocket that they're working on right now, the originally called the Big Falcon rocket, but now just called the Starship. Starship actually also uses methalogs. Now, why, you may ask, is methalogs becoming so attractive? If you were to go to Mars, you won't be able to extract water so easily. What you will find, however, is rather abundant amounts of methane and oxygen. Yes, methane and oxygen, the very ingredients you need for methalogs. To be able to have a rocket that runs and can get to orbit and can travel to other planets with methalogs would be the key to refueling. Whether we're doing to and fro launches from Earth to Mars, or if we want to explore further into the solar system, having the ability to refuel on a planet like Mars would be extremely important, which is why methalogs and this whole thing has come about. To be able to use the resources that are already on the planet instead of having to create our own will be a much more efficient way to get us not only to Mars, but to beyond and perhaps even past the solar system. Thank you. I will
It's
now.
an amazing new rocket engine. Amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Oh, just one last thing. This rocket is called the Terran 1. You won't be hearing so much about it anymore, however, because this was really more of a test flight. They have moved on to to another rocket called the Terran R. That is more reusable, and it's what they're focusing on now. But it still uses methalogs, which is perhaps the key to the future of spaceflight. Okay, I will stop presenting.
Okay.
Dr. Chong.
Thank you, Ryan. So I'll share my screen. We have 19th of April 2023. So I read here Aurora storm over Lapland. So basically, this picture is taken by Senor Juan Carlos Lapland. Lapland is most part of Finland. Remember three Scandinavian country: Finland, Sweden, and Norway. So in Finland, in the uppermost part of Finland, there's a place called Lapland, where you have the Sami people. Actually, I think above the Arctic Circle, our Senor Juan Carlos was there, and he took this picture with two people there in front. Beautiful. So it's an aurora. And remember, now the sun is getting more and more active. A lot of this coronal mass ejection practically every week, and also solar flares. And when it slams into the upper atmosphere of the Earth, you see the wonderful aurora. For example, in Lapland, all right? And what we call around the world. And look at it. So you have the red, the green, the yellow, the violent solar flare or this coronal mass ejection, which are the charged particles from the sun, all right, which are the electrons and the proton, and they are coming up from the sun at even greater speed. The sphere is made of the magnetic field. They cover the Earth in space. So the magnetosphere would redirect this charged particle towards the north polar region or the south polar region. I don't want to make it too technical. Basically, because of this Lorentz force formula, right? So the Lorentz force formula will redirect the electrons and the protons and the ions for the sun towards the north and south polar region. So it's not only in the north, even the south can see, Antarctica can see, New Zealand can see, Chile can see, but this is the north in Finland. And so when the electrons, when proton charged particle hits the upper atmosphere, and what's in the upper atmosphere? Air molecule, Q. And excite one of the electrons in the outer
We seem to have lost Dr. Chong for a while.
right. So next one is 18th of April. This is an interesting one. Okay, so I repeat, 18 April 2023, the map of total solar eclipse path in 2024 April. It's not really next year April. This year also, basically there are two. Yes?
Dr. Chong, can you hear me?
So now you have, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your connection cut out for a moment on the last APOD.
Okay. On the last APOD, but you can see my picture,
Yes,
not my sound.
we can see you.
What about now? What about now? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you see
I
me?
can hear you, I can see
My
you.
screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, so now we are now sorry about the earlier one on the 19th of April. So this is the 18th of April 2023. Map of total solar eclipse path in 2024 April. So the title is not so accurate. Actually, it's for this year. There's a solar eclipse. Next example, you have the October the 14th, they get over here from the northern Pacific. You're going to cross over California and down south to the Sea of Gulf of Mexico, and you have an annular solar eclipse, meaning the moon is further away from the Earth, the sun is closer to the Earth. Therefore, the moon is smaller, the sun is bigger. So the moon cannot cover the sun. An annular ring of fire. So this is on the 14th of October this year, and it will be the maximum about 5 minutes and 17 seconds annularity. But next year, on the 8th of April 2024, a total solar eclipse is from here. From the Pacific Ocean, it crosses this Mexico and into America. Alright, this part America. So they're lucky, the American. So 8th of April 2024, the total solar eclipse, the maximum phase is somewhere here will be, can listen carefully, 4 minutes and 28 seconds. So anyone want to go for an eclipse expedition for next year, total solar eclipse in the USA? You can go, right? So this is very beautiful and done by our NASA Science Visualization Studio, right? Like this. So this is very great. So we know that many people have been observing solar eclipses for a long time. For example, the recent solar eclipse in Exmouth in Western Australia, Kenny told us that he was there. He met a Japanese amateur astronomer that on the 20th of April, the total solar eclipse in Australia, for that Japanese amateur astronomer, that was his 18th solar eclipse he visited. 18. So there are people who keep on going for it. So now these people in Australia, they are planning for end of this year, annual solar eclipse in the USA, and next year, total solar eclipse in the USA. Okay, so I go to the next picture, which is 17th of April. Okay, is ELVES, 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 lightning over Italy. It's taken by amateur, what they call landscape photographers. So many of the astrophoto are not taken by normal astrophotographers, but by amateur photographer. But he was lucky at night, we were able to take the ELVES. So there's a big ring here. So it may not look big, but basically very high up in the sky. This ring diameter is about 350 kilometers, huge ring. All right, and you were lucky. So basically, is that you have a kind of lightning that occurs near the Earth's surface, and there's a discharge of the electrons that go up from the Earth, going up into the upper atmosphere, and create a flash of light. So this ELVES lightning is only a millisecond in length, 0.001 second. So if you use your naked eye, you won't see. You must have a fast camera to shoot it. So he was lucky able to capture it. So this is a upper atmosphere lightning, able to capture. So if you want to capture it, you must have your camera to go very fast shutter speed. You may be lucky. Remember, there are not many types of upper atmospheric lightning. One of course this ELVES. Another one is a famous Sprite, not the soft drink called Sprite, not in Malaysia. It's a lightning, upper atmospheric lightning. They've seen before around the world. Even in Penang, they've seen, right? Sprite. And another one is called the blue lightning. So they're very interesting. These are not astronomy phenomena, but Earth's atmospheric phenomena. Like just now, Rayan showed us the water spout. Okay, so this is Earth's what they call lightning in the lower atmosphere. So as the electrons go up into the atmosphere, they will energize this ring and cause it visible back on the Earth. That is for a short moment. All right. So this is our ELVES lightning over Italy. All right. So now I pass over to Ming Hui.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Chong. Now, allow me to share my screen. Okay. Okay. So for my today's sharing, I will share about the 4 celestial objects. And okay, so I will introduce the 2 objects first. The first one is the M29, the wings of the Butterfly Nebula, and also the Egg Nebula first. Okay, so I will give some quick background introduction about the planetary nebula first. Okay. Okay, so for the first 2 images, the Minkowski 29 and the Egg Nebula they are both the planetary nebula. So let me to give a quick introduction on the planetary nebula first. Okay, for a low mass star like our sun, at its own final stage of life, it will become a red giant, and then it will cast off its outer layer to form a planetary nebula. And then the inner core will remain, and it is called as a white dwarf. Okay, so for the name, the planetary nebula might be curious for some people, as there is the name planet inside the term. But actually, it has nothing to do with the planets. The naming is due to the historical reason. Okay, as we look back the history of the astronomy, the first planetary nebula, Messiah 27, was discovered by the Charles Messiah in 1764. As he observed through a small telescope, the object had a planet-like appearance. So this is where the name comes from. And one more thing, for the planetary nebula, it will eventually disappear, fade out, and will last for about 20,000 years. And let me show you about the image for the Messiah 27. Okay, so when you look at the small telescope for this object, it is a very small circular shape, resemble like a planet shape. Okay, so let's take a look for the 16th April image, which is the Minkowski 29 nebula, and it is the planetary nebula. Okay, so for this nebula, it was discovered by the Rudolf Minkowski in the 1947, and this nebula is located at the Ophiuchus constellations, about 2,100 light years away from the Earth. And based on the appearance, we can categorize it as a bipolar planetary nebula. And this type of nebula can be only formed when the center region hosts a binary star system. And that is also another name for this nebula. We also call it as the twin jet nebula due to its the symmetrical shape. Okay. So, and then for the next image on the 9th April, it is the Egg Nebula. And also it is another planetary nebula. And first we take a look for this image first. This image was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. For the left side is taken with the optical wavelength by the Wide Field and Planetary Camera 2 WFPC2 instrument. And the right side taken with the infrared wavelength through the Near Infrared Camera and Multi-Object Spectrometer NIGMAS instrument. Okay, so let's take a look at the details about the Egg Nebula. The first thing, this nebula was only discovered during the 1970s, and it is located at the Cygnus constellation, about 3,000 light years away from the Earth. And actually, it is a pre-planetary nebula, and also classified as a bipolar due to its appearance like the Minkowski-29. So for a pre-planetary nebula, it means that it is still undergo the process on the formation to become a planetary nebula at a later time, in around after a few thousand years later. So during this state, the pre-planetary nebula, the dying star in the center will periodically sheds out its outer layer, and then the dying star at the center will illuminate the outer layer. So to look for the pre-planetary nebula is very difficult, as it is very faint and it is very short-lived. So it is a rare object to be found in the universe. Eventually, the pre-planetary nebula in the center of the dying star will stop shedding the material. So, and then the center region will heat up eventually, and it will glow brightly to become a planetary nebula. Okay, so this is an image from the APOD 9 April. Okay, this is a first color rendition of the Egg Nebula. Okay, so taken by the Hubble Space Telescope also, but using another camera, which is the advanced camera for surveys instrument with the polarization filter. Okay, so for the purpose of this first color rendition of this nebula, it can use to illustrate how the light reflects off the dust particle in this nebula. And we can study the polarized light from this nebula to understand its physical properties and to locate the central star hidden by the dust more accurately. Okay, and then for the next image, I would like to share about the 11th April image, which is the North Star, the Polaris, and then with the surrounding dust. Okay, let me give some background introduction about the Polaris first. Okay, I checked my screen. Okay, so for the Polaris star, I think everyone will know about this star because this is the star we call as the North Star, and it is just right position above the northern axis of the Earth rotation. And in the night sky, it appears to be stationary throughout the year at the northern hemisphere countries. And then this is how we look for the Polaris star. It is very easy actually. So at first, we just look up the sky, and then to look for the Big Dipper asterism first, part of the Ursa Major constellation. And then we locate the Dubhe star, the Alpha Ursae Majoris. It will help us to locate the Polaris. And the Polaris is at the Ursa Minor constellation. Okay, another thing about the Polaris, it is a triple star system actually. So based on the recent observation by the Hubble Space Telescope on 2006, it reveals that the Polaris is in fact a triple star system actually. And another extra thing about the Polaris star, when we're doing the long exposure photography at the night sky, okay, we will notice that there is a center point, a point will didn't move the thing. So the point is a Polaris. And now we take a look about for the today image is the Polaris and the surrounding dust. The surrounding dust is actually called as the Integrated Flux Nebula. So for the Integrated Flux Nebula, we can say that it is just a recent identified phenomena. Okay, so the Integrated Flux Nebula is only the gas and the dust located several hundred light years above the plane of the Milky Way, and that is very extremely faint, not very easy to see. And the nebula is only illuminated by the help of the integrated flux of all the stars in the Milky Way. And for this integrated flux nebula, it was first noticed by Steve Mendel, an amateur astrophotographer and astronomer also, on his own Explorer Nebula project. So if you want to photograph the integrated flux nebula, we need to use the deep exposure and then with a very careful image processing on computer to review its existence. And for any interested audience may look for this person and this title, the Unexplored Nebula and the Unexplored Nebula project by him. Okay, so and then for the finally one, for the 4th April, is about the Olympus Mons Mountain, the tallest mountain in the solar system located at the planet Mars. Okay, so here is the three-dimensional image rendition of the Olympus Mons. Okay, so for this mountain, it is the tallest mountain in the solar system at the planet Mars, and it is the volcano also. As we look back the image, we can categorize this as a shield volcano. As the appearance, when we look from the top to the bottom, it looks like a shield. And this mountain is formed by the series of the successive lava that build up over a very long period of time. And then it will create a broad, gently sloping mountain. And this mountain is very tall, as the Mars doesn't have the tectonic plate compared to planet Earth. And then for the lower gravity on the Mars, also can allow it to be, the mountain to be more larger without collapsing. Okay, and then one final fact about this volcano, it may have the potential to erupt again in the future, but we don't know the timing is when. And just a quick comparison, the size of the Olympus Mount and the Mount Everest in planet Earth. So you see that the Olympus Mount is far more taller than Mount Everest. And then finally, if we compare the size of the Olympus Mount, it is roughly around the size of the Arizona state in the United States. Okay, so I think that's all for my part. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen. Okay.
Dr. Chong, you're muted.
Dr. Chong, your mic muted.
So our Michael just informed us that usually we will hook into our what we call unlimited time, no time limit. But he didn't know, he didn't remember that. So he hooked onto the normal Google Meet, which is maximum 1 hour. I'll try to present as many pictures as I can. Okay, so maybe now it's 9:19. I'll stop at 9:29, and then I'll stop. Okay, as fast as I can. So now you go to the next picture. Which is April the 15th. All right. So April the 15th is called when Z is for Mars. There's a Z. There you are. Z Tung Tezel. All right, famous. He's a member of the Tuan, the World at Night. All right, famous astrophotography group. You know, Minghui, you're keen, try to join this group. Very nice. Okay, so basically is I call it. You look here. It's called the loop effect, meaning that he keep following the what you call the Mars from Turkey from August 2022 to March 2023, many months. So August 2022, Mars was here in the constellation. And so this is a constellation of Taurus the Bull. This is Pleiades, for example. So you follow from March, August 22nd, and somewhere here, and you go stand. This is this is called prograde motion of Mars, and then go retrograde, go back, go start, right? And let's say you're jogging around the stadium in a clockwise direction, not a clockwise. Now this is let me see. No, this is a stadium. Let's say one person is on the outer lane, say the last lane, lane number 8. And you're running counterclockwise, but that's the first lane. Earth and Mars initially you're on the inner lane. Earth is moving faster, orbiting around the sun compared to Mars. So Earth will overtake Mars here, right? So in other words, here, when you are here, the Mars is ahead of Earth around the sun. But then as Earth and Mars are in the same part, line of the motion, take the Mars. And the Earth keep on moving in the inner lane, then the Mars again go back to prograde. So by the way, the name planets given by the Greeks to the planets is what planetes. So in Greek, planetes means the wanderer. An object that wander forward and then goes down and forward. So that's why the planets are called what they call wanderers, called planets. So this is a famous. Sometimes in astronomy we call it for the planets. All right. Okay. This is the loop motion. So now we go to the next one. I still got time. We have April the 10th. This is very nice. All right, April the 10th. So you see here you have IC 2944. IC means index catalog. Running chicken formula. And then you are very nice, you know. So I try to look at it many times. This is the body of the chicken, and this is the head of the chicken. So imagine you have a chicken where the head is lying down, and there's another part of another nebula next to it. So this is the chicken that's lying down. It's the running chicken nebula. I don't see as in this what you call JPL. JPL is of course our Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. Pasadena is not very far from Los Angeles. Remember, NASA has a famous laboratory called JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, formed in the late 1940s. All right. So it's very nice. So this is our you have here emission nebula. You have here also an absorption nebula. Very nice. Huh? There are traditional nebulas that have been given names. But you look at many of the young new astrophotographers, surprisingly, they will find new objects in the Milky Way which have not been discovered. So they're giving new names, you know. Okay, like remember our member Kenny Low, he just posted a picture, the blue horsehead nebula. I never seen before, the blue horsehead nebula. So this is the running chicken nebula by Houston from JPL. Okay, so I think I can show one. This is a nice one. Okay, so April the 7th, 2023, Rigel White. So basically, this is a star Rigel. White meaning it's a white peel, all right? And then you can see it by our mini, right? So write down which head nebula. Normally this is the top, this is the bottom, and this one is pointing towards the left. Normally it's pointing towards the right. So it's the famous Witch Head nebula over here, which is a reflection nebula. So the light from Rigel falls onto the nebula, reflected off. All right. Of course, this is of course our M42 Great Orion Nebula. So this is the larger white by Reinhold Wittich, and of course they also give it called Beta Orionis. Remember, this is our Bayer magnitude classification system for stars by a German astrophotographer called second brightest star, Rigel Beta Orionis. So it goes at alpha, beta, gamma, and so on. All right. These are the Bayer magnitude classification system. And actually, in some parts of Malaysia, they have been, for example, Langkawi, you can also take 1 hour and another 3 minutes. So